A wooden pigeon launched itself 200 feet through the air 2,400 years ago, powered by a jet engine that shouldn't have existed. A bronze woman in ancient Egypt poured wine on command, following a coded algorithm with zero electricity, zero circuits, and zero human help. And a mechanical monk built in 1560 is still functional today, walking on two legs, moving its lips, and rolling its eyes, sitting inside a museum right now, waiting to be wound up. These weren't myths, these weren't accidents, these were machines, built by civilizations that were supposed to know nothing about engineering. Join us, and let's discover the ancient world's most terrifying robotic secrets. Let's go.
Number 13. The Nimrud Lens. In 1850, archaeologist Austin Henry Laird was digging through the ruins of ancient Assyrian city of Nimrud, a city already ancient when Rome was still mud huts. Among the rubble of a palace destroyed in 612 BC, his team pulled out a small oval piece of polished rock crystal, the size of a large coin, easy to overlook. But when modern researchers examined it under laboratory conditions, they found something deeply uncomfortable. It had been ground with extraordinary precision into a plano-convex lens, one flat side, one curved side, exactly like the lenses inside your camera or eyeglasses, functional, deliberate, manufactured in Assyria between 750 and 710 BC. Professor Giovanni Pettitino of the University of Rome argued this lens explains one of history's most stubborn mysteries. Ancient Assyrian astronomers produced star catalogs of terrifying accuracy, mapping star clusters completely invisible to the naked eye. The Nimrud lens would have given them a functional telescope 2,400 years before Galileo. But here's the detail that truly unsettles researchers. This lens wasn't found in a temple or a royal treasury. It was found in a craftsman's workshop, surrounded by production tools. Somebody wasn't just using these lenses, somebody was manufacturing them in 700 BC, which means there were more, and most of them are still buried somewhere under the soil of modern Iraq.
Number 12. The Dendera Light. Inside the Temple of Hathor at Dendera, Egypt, so ancient that Roman tourists visited it as a historic landmark 2,000 years ago, there are stone wall carvings that make electrical engineers deeply uncomfortable. The reliefs show large, elongated, bulb-shaped objects. Inside each bulb, a serpent stretches from the narrow end to the wide end, mirroring with unsettling precision the glowing filament of a modern light bulb. The bulbs rest on insulating pillars. A cord extends from the base. Electrical engineer Henry Kelson compared these carvings directly to Crookes tubes, early vacuum tubes that glow when electrical current passes through them. Some researchers physically built replicas based on the carvings' proportions and connected them to a power source comparable to linked ancient batteries. The replicas glowed. Mainstream Egyptologists say these are purely symbolic, serpents emerging from lotus flowers, a known Egyptian motif. That explanation is reasonable, but it leaves one question completely unanswered. The inner chambers of this temple have no windows. They are completely sealed stone rooms. And yet the paintings covering every surface show hairline-thin brushwork, subtle color gradations, microscopic detail across entire ceilings. A torch produces soot, smoke, and flickering light. These ceilings show virtually no soot deposits across thousands of years. Nobody has fully explained how ancient Egyptian artists produced that level of precision in complete darkness, without leaving a single trace of whatever light source they used.
Only 1% of people know the dark truth behind what we are about to show you next. If you want to be part of the few who actually know what's happening in the world, subscribe and leave a like right now. Done? Look at this.
Number 11. The Phaistos Disc. In 1908, archaeologists excavating the ruins of the Minoan palace of Phaistos on the island of Crete pulled something from the ground that has defeated every expert who has touched it for over a century. A fired clay disc, roughly 6 inches in diameter, dating to around 1700 BC. On both faces, 241 individual symbols spiral inward from the outer edge toward the center. A walking man, a feathered head, a hand, a fish, a shield, a sequence, possibly a text, possibly instructions. Nobody knows. The disc has never been decoded. But the symbols themselves are not what make archaeologists lose sleep. What keeps them awake is how those symbols were made. Each one was not carved or painted by hand. Each symbol was stamped into the wet clay using a separate pre-made handheld tool, pressed firmly into the surface before the disc was fired. This is movable type, the precise mechanical principle behind Gutenberg's printing press, which historians credit with transforming civilization, invented in 1440 AD. The Phaistos disc was made in 1700 BC, that is 3,100 years earlier.
And here is what makes it genuinely disturbing. No other example of this stamping technology has ever been found anywhere in the world from this period. It appeared from nowhere, was used on this single object, and then completely vanished from human history for 3,000 years.
Number 10. The Baghdad Battery. In 1938, German archaeologist Wilhelm Koenig was sorting through storage boxes in the basement of the Iraq Museum. Routine work. Then he opened one particular box and stopped. Inside was a clay jar about 5 inches tall. Inside the jar, a copper cylinder. Inside the cylinder, an iron rod, isolated from the copper by an asphalt stopper. Separately, 3 unremarkable objects. Together, a complete electrochemical cell, the identical fundamental structure of every battery ever manufactured in human history, dated between 250 BC and 640 AD. When researchers built exact replicas and filled them with acidic liquids available in ancient Mesopotamia, grape juice, lemon juice, vinegar, the devices immediately generated between 1.5 and 2 volts of electrical current. That is the same voltage as the AA battery in your TV remote right now. Archaeological evidence from the region suggests ancient jewelers used electroplating, coating cheap metals with thin, even layers of gold, producing results that modern metallurgists struggle to replicate without electricity. But a single battery producing 1.5 volts is modest. Meaningful electroplating requires multiple batteries linked in series. If ancient engineers were sophisticated enough to build one, they were sophisticated enough to build an array, which means what Koenig found in that basement box was not a curiosity. It was one unit of a larger electrical system, and the rest of that system is still out there, buried.
Number 9. Archimedes' heat ray. Around 12 BC, Roman general Marcus Claudius Marcellus sailed a fleet into the harbor of Syracuse, expecting a routine siege. What he got instead became one of the most debated events in all of ancient military history. According to multiple independent ancient sources, Polybius, Plutarch, and Lucian, the city's engineer, Archimedes, had prepared a weapon using no catapults, no arrows, no fire launched through the air. Soldiers on the city walls directed large polished bronze mirrors in a precise geometric formation, focusing reflected sunlight into a single concentrated beam aimed at the approaching Roman ships. The ships began to smoke, then burn, while still hundreds of feet from shore, without any physical contact. Roman soldiers watched their vessels ignite spontaneously and concluded the gods themselves had turned against them. In 2005, an MIT team used 127 one-foot mirror tiles to focus sunlight on a replica Roman hull 100 feet away. The wood reached ignition temperature and caught fire in approximately 10 minutes. The physics is completely sound. Archimedes built a directed energy weapon, the same fundamental concept behind modern military laser systems that the United States, China, and Russia are currently spending billions of dollars trying to perfect. The man they are all trying to catch up to was killed by a Roman soldier in 12 BC, a soldier who reportedly didn't even know who he was.
Number 8. Hero of Alexandria steam engine. Around 50 AD, a Greek engineer named Hero of Alexandria, who also invented the first coin-operated vending machine and the first programmable theatrical cart, sat down and invented the steam engine. He called it the aeolipile, a sealed metal sphere mounted on an axis, connected by pipes to a boiler below. 2 nozzles bent at opposing angles projected from the sphere's sides. When the water boiled, steam filled the sphere and expelled through the nozzles, causing the sphere to spin rapidly, continuously. This is a reaction turbine, the precise operational principle inside every jet engine flying overhead right now and every steam turbine generating electricity on Earth. Replicas built by modern researchers achieved rotational speeds exceeding 1,500 RPM, faster than a car engine at idle. Hero lived in Alexandria, surrounded by the greatest engineers of his era, in an empire built almost entirely on human slave labor, an empire desperately needing mechanical power. If anyone had connected that spinning sphere to a shaft and gears, the Industrial Revolution begins in 50 AD instead of the 1760s. Civilization accelerates by 1,700 years. Instead, Hero's device was documented, labeled an entertaining novelty, and set aside. And humanity waited 17 centuries to remember what one man in Alexandria already knew.
Number 7. Archaeologists' steam pigeon. Around 400 BC, in the Greek city of Tarentum, a crowd gathered in a public square to watch a demonstration by the city's most famous citizen, Archaeologists of Tarentum, general, mathematician, and the man Plato considered the greatest intellect of his age. At the center of the square stood a wooden apparatus holding a carved hollow bird, life-sized, made from lightweight timber. Archaeologists lit a fire beneath it. The bird began to tremble. Then, from its tail, a violent jet of white steam erupted, and the bird launched. It traveled approximately 200 meters through the air, not thrown, not dropped, propelled by sustained thrust. The crowd immediately concluded Archaeologists had trapped an air spirit inside the wooden body. Others insisted invisible threads held it aloft. The actual mechanism was a sealed, pressurized chamber connected to a narrow rear nozzle. Steam pressure built inside the hollow body. When Archaeologists released a stopper, superheated steam expelled through the nozzle produced direct reactive thrust. This is Newton's third law of motion, the identical principle behind every rocket and jet engine ever built. Archaeologists applied it 2,000 years before Newton wrote it down, and 2,300 years before the Wright brothers flew for 12 seconds at Kitty Hawk. He built the world's first unmanned aerial vehicle. It flew 200 meters, and history simply filed it away and moved on.
Number 6. Zongheng's Seismoscope. 132 AD, the Han Dynasty imperial court operates under permanent political terror. For the Chinese emperor, a major earthquake wasn't just a natural disaster, it was a theological crisis, heaven withdrawing its approval of his rule. Every earthquake was a potential death sentence for his dynasty. Into this atmosphere walked Zongheng, court astronomer, mathematician, and one of the most dangerous intellects of the ancient world. He presented the emperor with a massive bronze vessel 6 feet in diameter. 8 bronze dragon heads projected from its walls, each facing a different cardinal direction. Below each dragon, a bronze toad sat on the floor with its mouth open. One ordinary morning, with no warning and no tremor felt by anyone, a bronze ball dropped from one dragon's mouth and crashed into the toad below. The dragon faced northwest. The court laughed. Zongheng stated calmly that a major earthquake had just struck hundreds of miles to the northwest. Days later, a messenger arrived on an exhausted horse. A catastrophic earthquake had hit a region 500 kilometers to the northwest. Inside the vessel hung a heavy suspended pendulum. The thick bronze walls filtered out surface vibrations from carts and footsteps, but genuine seismic waves traveling through deep bedrock caused the entire building to shift almost imperceptibly. The pendulum resisted that movement, swung toward the wave's origin, and triggered the corresponding dragon. Europe wouldn't develop a comparable instrument for another 1,000 years.
Number 5. The South-Pointing Chariot. Around the 3rd century AD, Chinese engineers solved a navigational problem that should have been impossible without a compass, a satellite, or any external reference point. How do you keep an army moving in a consistent direction through dense fog, featureless plains, and complete navigational blackout? Their solution was a chariot with a carved wooden figure on its roof, one arm extended. Officers manually set the figure to point south before departure. Then the army moved, through fog, through mountain passes, through terrain with no visible landmarks. The figure's arm kept pointing south, always, through every turn and detour. Inside the chariot, a differential gear system connected both wheels to the rotating base of the figure. When the chariot traveled straight, both wheels rotated at identical speeds. The figure held still. The moment the chariot turned, the outer wheel traveled a longer arc, creating a speed difference between the two sides. The gear system instantly calculated that difference and rotated the figure by the exact compensating angle, maintaining its absolute orientation automatically across hundreds of miles of terrain. No magnets, no compass, no external reference, pure mechanical mathematics running continuously. This is a differential gear, the identical principle governing the axle of every car, truck, and military vehicle on Earth today. Chinese engineers implemented it for autonomous navigation in 200 AD. Western engineers officially rediscovered the differential gear in the 19th century.
Number 4. Philo's mechanical servant. In the 2nd century BC, Alexandria was the Silicon Valley of the ancient world. At one elite private banquet, guests were introduced to something that made even the most worldly among them go pale. Standing on a raised platform was a life-sized figure of a young woman, face carved from expensive wood, body covered in polished bronze draped with real silk. In her right hand, an elegant pitcher. When a guest placed an empty cup in her extended left hand, she moved, smoothly, naturally. Her arm descended under the weight of the cup, exactly as a human arm would. She tilted the pitcher and poured exactly half a cup of wine. She paused, then poured water until the cup was full. In the ancient world, drinking undiluted wine was considered barbaric. The correct ratio was half wine, half water. This machine knew the protocol,
automatically, every time, without variation. Her creator was Philo of Byzantium, who left behind detailed engineering schematics. Inside her body, 2 sealed tanks, 1 wine, 1 water, connected to a pneumatic network of air valves and levers. The cup's weight activated a hidden lever, opening an air valve into the wine tank. Air entered, built pressure, displaced wine through a metal tube into the pitcher. As the cup grew heavier, the lever sealed the wine valve and opened the water valve. When the guest removed the cup, a spring reset the entire system. The world's first programmable automaton, a fixed behavioral algorithm encoded entirely in mechanical physics. No electricity, no hidden operator, pure engineering from 200 BC wearing a human face.
Number 3. The Antikythera mechanism. In 1901, sponge divers off the Greek island of Antikythera surfaced with corroded bronze fragments pulled from a shipwreck dating to around 70 BC. For decades, the lumps sat in museum storage, assumed to be decorative fragments. Then X-ray imaging revealed what was hidden inside. Dozens of interlocking bronze gears, some with teeth smaller than a millimeter, arranged in a configuration so mechanically complex that no comparable device would appear anywhere in human history for the next 1,400 years. The Antikythera mechanism was an astronomical computer. Built between 150 and 100 BC, it simultaneously calculated the positions of the sun and moon, the precise lunar phase on any given date, the timing and location of solar and lunar eclipses projected decades into the future, the 4-year Olympic cycle, and the positions of all 5 visible planets. Researchers have identified at least 37 bronze gears in the surviving fragments and estimate the complete device originally contained more than 70. Those gears were cut with a precision that modern machinists using hand tools genuinely struggle to replicate, even knowing exactly what they are trying to build. The entire mechanism fit inside a wooden box the size of a shoebox. It had a hand crank. You turned it forward or backward, and the cosmos moved on the display. Cardiff University professor Mike Edmonds stated directly that its sophistication was, quote, far beyond anything we thought the ancient Greeks were capable of. The world's first analog computer, built in the 1st century BC by engineers whose names are completely lost to history.
Number 2. Leonardo da Vinci's Mechanical Knight. Around 1495, in the court of Ludovico Sforza in Milan, Leonardo da Vinci designed a fully articulated robotic knight. The plans disappeared into his notebooks for nearly 500 years, dismissed as theoretical fantasy. Then, in the 1990s, NASA robotics engineer Mark Rosheim pulled those pages out and built it. Using only Leonardo's surviving sketches and Renaissance-era materials, Rosheim constructed a working mechanical knight that could sit and stand, raise its visor, move both arms independently, rotate its head, and open and close an anatomically proportioned jaw, all powered by a single hand crank connected to internal cables, pulleys, and gears. The device was driven by a programmable drum, a rotating cylinder with metal pegs at specific intervals. Each peg triggered a different movement in a preset sequence. Repositioning the pegs changed the knight's entire behavioral sequence. Different peg configuration, completely different movement program. This was software, written in metal, in 1495. Leonardo designed the knight as a systematic study of human biomechanics, reverse engineering joints, tendons, and muscle groups into mechanical equivalents. Rosheim's replica functions flawlessly. NASA subsequently hired Rosheim, specifically citing insights gained from building Leonardo's robot to help design joint systems for planetary exploration rovers. A Renaissance engineer's biomechanical obsession directly influenced the machines we sent to Mars, and he drew the blueprints 5 centuries ago.
Number 1. The Automaton Monk. In the 1560s, King Philip II of Spain, ruler of roughly half the known world, was on his knees beside his dying son's bed. Prince Don Carlos had suffered a head injury that developed into a catastrophic infection. Every physician in Europe had failed. In absolute desperation, Philip made a vow directly to God. If his son survived, Philip would deliver a miracle in return. The prince recovered. Philip summoned his master engineer, Juanelo Turiano, considered the greatest mechanical genius in Europe, and gave him one instruction: build something the world has never seen. Months later, a 16-inch wooden monk walked through the royal chamber doors on its own 2 legs. It shifted weight from foot to foot with a gait observers described as eerily human. As it moved, it raised a wooden cross to its face. It struck its chest in a gesture of penance. Its carved lips moved in silent prayer. Its glass eyes rolled slowly upward toward heaven, fully autonomous, no wires, no operator, covering meters of uneven stone floor completely alone. Palace staff fell into genuine terror. Senior members of the Spanish Inquisition demanded it be burned immediately. Under the monk's robe was a cascade of cam discs,
irregularly shaped rotating plates whose edges pressed against dozens of iron levers in a precise mathematical sequence. One camp shifted the weight and initiated the step. The next swung the leg forward. Another raised the arm. Another moved the lips and rotated the eyes. Physical code, a behavioral program written in iron geometry 300 years before software existed. The automaton monk survived. Today, it sits in the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C. Wind its ancient mainspring carefully, and after nearly 500 years, it walks. It raises its cross. It moves its lips. It rolls its glass eyes toward heaven, exactly as it did for Philip II, the oldest functional robot on Earth, still running.
If you thought this was terrifying, you are not ready for what they found in the video on your screen. Click it right now. The truth is worse than you think.